Hi, I'm Bill Lucas, and you're listening to Detroit JazzStage.
Welcome to another edition of Detroit JazzStage. I'm Rodney Reeves.
And I'm Jim Gallert. This month on Detroit JazzStage, we present a conversation with Terri Pontremoli, Executive Director of the Detroit International Jazz Festival. Started in 1979, the Detroit International Jazz Festival was one of North America's largest free music festivals. And what better city for such a festival than Detroit, one of the world's greatest jazz cities?
This is the title track from the new CD. It's called Sonic Tonic.
Well, Terri, thank you so much for dropping by Detroit JazzStage this week. We really appreciate you taking time out from your busy schedule.
It's great to be here.
You know, most of us enjoy Jazz Festival only over the Labor Day weekend, and I don't think we appreciate the months and months of intense planning that goes into putting a festival of such magnitude together. How long does it actually take to assemble a festival like the Detroit International Jazz Festival? When do you start? When one finishes, is there a break?
No.
No.
It basically is that it's all the time, because there's a lot that goes into it. First of all, when it's over, you have all this cleanup to do, and you have to report, and you have to take a look at how you did, because that helps you plan. And then you're into planning, and you're into raising money, and you're into contacting artists and talking to people that present jazz and working on partnerships. And so it takes a full year, there's no doubt. The payoff is great, though.
Free music. Years ago, I was contacted by one of the people over at the Jazz Festival when you weren't involved with it, and they'd booked John Faddis, and so someone said, well, we don't really know what he sounds like. Can you make a tape up? This was the tape days. So I made up a tape of John Faddis, and they were able to hear John Faddis. And I know things are a lot different now, because now when you book a group, you're familiar with who they are, but how do you go about choosing who you choose for the festival?
That's an interesting question, because I really like the notion of being a little more curatorial in who I select. I think it's really fun to put together sort of an overarching theme, and then from there put pieces and parts together, and then you end up creating lots of stories within the big story. It makes it fun to market it, and the musicians themselves get interested in it as well. That's kind of what I'm finding. So this year, we are doing the Rumble in the Great Lakes, and this is really about Chicago and Detroit, which are such important stops for jazz and blues. And to have these two cities pit each of their great musicians against one another in a friendly battle, I still think that Detroit comes out on top, by the way.
Do you think, with the internet especially, where people can hear virtually whatever type of music they want at any time they want to, what makes a jazz festival special? I mean, people can go to clubs occasionally, or they can, tap into the internet, but what is it about a jazz festival that continues to attract people, do you think?
I think there's two things. One is that I think it is putting jazz out in the light of day. It's taking it out of the club and putting it in the light of day. And the other thing is that the audience has a mindset. And I think that the audience comes ready. They want to be thrilled, and they want to share the experience. Jazz heads, we're all like, we listen to this, God, it's comfort. It's like comfort food for your soul to sit down and listen to Miles' sides and all that kind of stuff. And I think we all do that. But then to be in a festival where there's just tons of people, and they all get it. You're with a bunch of people that get it. It's like, I don't know, I think that's what makes it so great.
So how common is it for jazz festivals to have people booking the acts that are actual lovers and promoters of jazz music?
Honestly, I think it's common.
Oh, really?
I feel, yeah, I do, and I feel it. Let me just say, I think it should be.
Sure, of course.
Because, and I think you have to be open, because you can't just program what you love. I think you've got to really be able to, especially in a festival, you have 6 stages. I mean, there's room for everything. You should be able to do all kinds of stuff to satisfy everybody. But, and I think that if you were booking a festival and somebody said, absolutely, everything is perfect, you're probably doing something wrong. I think you really need to just kind of experiment and paint your own picture. But I don't know. I mean, like Randall Klein, who runs the San Francisco Jazz Festival, was a bassist, totally immersed in loving this music. The guy in Seattle, Earshot Jazz, John Galbraith, passionate about this stuff. I don't know. I find that the people out there in the world of presenting this music basically are people who love it, I think.
Yeah, I would think it would be difficult because you're battling your artistic needs and desires with economics, and also for some people maybe being out of town, you might not have your finger on really what a certain area likes, because Detroit clearly, we've spoken about it before, and I know is really a bebop town.
That's what I love about it, because that's kind of where I am too. But I do love that. But you're right, and it is a matter of getting the feel for what people like, and also to really get out there and meet people and talk to people and go to the clubs and know the musicians, and talk to the radio folks. I mean, all that stuff it's like part of your homework, I think, if you're going to be doing something like this in a town. You don't want to be working in isolation.
Sure. So, how is there any commitment at all to promoting jazz beyond that 4-day weekend? I mean, like promoting events during the year to keep the public's awareness up so that they don't just go in those 3 or 4 days and not attend any other shows. I mean, is there any way do you work with other avenues to make that happen?
That's a very good question, because that's one of the things that I think is really important. I'm glad you touched on this, because I always talk about it like this. I think that if you are in jazz, you have to look at it like it is your own precious ecosystem. And you need this balance. It's got to be, people have to be teaching it, people have to be playing it. There have to be clubs, there have to be presenters, there has to be a festival, there has to be radio stations that play it. I think all of those things together keep this music alive and healthy. And if one of those little things starts to fail, all of it could possibly fail. So I think it's really important. So in answer to your question, I really feel that one of the things that wasn't healthy about the festival in the past was that it worked. It was like the circus that came to town. It literally threw up the tents, had the festival, and then went away. And I think that we need to have legs, and we have to be partners with people who also nurture this music. So, I mean, the reason that I talk to Jim is because he cares so much about this music. Jim and Lars, and you guys have this forum. This is like so important. So I feel like you have to. It's on our organization to find all of you guys and work with you and do things throughout the year. And so yes, partnerships are very, very important.
How about the commitment to not only the national acts but also the local artists that we have in this town?
This is something that is really tricky, and I say that because I think there's so many fine players here. There's really, it's the word glut. It's a glut of great. There's just the musicianship is deep here, and so there's a lot of people to present. Somehow we have to find the balance, and I'm going to need to work on that more with much more focus. But yes, I think that we need to. What I would love to do is think of really special projects to do with some of the locals too, so that you're not just putting locals on a stage doing what they always do, but you're asking them to do something that maybe they would love to do but couldn't come up with the finances to rehearse a band or to do charts or all that kind of stuff. So those are the kinds of things that I think are really important, and I hope that we're going to be able to do more of that.
So, Terri, can you tell us, knowing what you know about the wealth of musical talent that Detroit has offered for so long, and just the wealth of talent that's available in jazz in general, can you tell us who's going to play the festival this year?
Well, I can tell you some of them, especially if I can recall. There's so many. This is one of the things that I'm not used to, is how many musicians I actually have to book. I mean, going through the contracts is just like, oh my God, it's just amazing. Okay, so we're doing the Chicago, Detroit, Rumble in the Great Lakes. And opening night, we're having Regina Carter as our artist in residence. I'm very excited about this because I think the festival should have an artist in residence. It's something that I hope we do every year, and that we give that artist an opportunity to also do some special creations. Regina this year is just going to play in a couple of different scenarios. So she's going to open with her quintet, and she's going to play later on with Kenny Barron, and just a duo thing, and then she's going to close the festival with the Clayton Hamilton Jazz Orchestra. I don't know if you've ever seen Regina sit in a saxophone section and play the lines with them, but It's really fun. It's a trip. And apparently, she did that in Oakland when she went to college here. That's how she sort of started getting her jazz chops together. She actually played in the big band.
Wow.
So it's really very cool. But anyway, she's also going to do some teaching. She's going to play with some kids. She's going to do some jazz talk stuff. So She's great. But anyway, so she's going to open with her quintet, and then Herbie Hancock is going to play after her. This is opening night. We're making a heavy jazz statement. In the past couple of years, we've done some Motown stuff, and whereas I love that, and I know that Motown is a very important part of the fabric here, this is a jazz festival, and I want to come out slamming. And the other interesting thing that we are going to do is that Michigan State University, the big band, has a wonderful suite of charts that's a tribute to Marvin Gaye. It's called What's Going On. We're going to have them playing, too, a little bit earlier on in that evening. So, then, who else am I having? Medeski, Martin, and Wood with Schofield.
Oh, great.
With Schofield. We're bringing in Betty Levette, Mavis Staples. We're going to do some gospel. Otis Clay. We're putting some blues in here. These are all aspects of both cities that bear some. We're bringing in Bill Charlap, the classical jazz quartet with Stefan Harris, Lewis Nash, Kenny Barron, and Ron Carter. Get that little Detroit connection in. Don Byron and his tribute to Junior Walker, another nod to Detroit.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds pretty good so far.
Sounds great.
Gerald Wilson. What we're doing this year, Gerald Wilson is almost 90. He is a national treasure.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a Mack Avenue artist, and his band has been on the festival for years, but this year, Patty Austin has just done this wonderful record of Gershwin. It's called Avant Gershwin. It's getting rave reviews, and so Gerald Wilson's big band is going to play with Patty Austin, which is also a really nice. So there's a Detroit connection with Gerald.
Sure.
You're listening to Detroit JazzStage.
Another thing that's really special for me is the Jazz Talk Tent, which is hosted by our own Jim Gallert. And one of the great things, they do a great, wonderful job putting together such an incredible list of artists. And it's amazing to be in this small little room, or this little tent, 50 feet or even closer from some of the most famous people in the world. And you can't have that in pop music or other styles of music. It just wouldn't happen. There are no bodyguards, But you're sitting with a legend. You're
That's
2
right.
degrees of separation from anybody in the history of jazz with most of those guys.
I know. And I think that's what's so cool about it. People sitting there get that feeling too. They know how special it is. I have to say that Jim and Lars just are really, really terrific, and they are really local treasures to be able to put this together with such care and such interest and such expertise. And last year was phenomenal, and we were so excited because we gave it some juice promotionally. We gave it juice. We spent money on it. We made sure that we were going to do something, because that was the one thing that I remember from the year before, which is my first year in 2005, was that there weren't very many people in the Jazz Talk tent. And I was watching the audience that was out there, and I thought, these people care. They would go to this if they knew about it. They're So last year, the funny thing was, the first day, we had that deluge of rain.
Oh, yeah, that was really good for us.
And the funny thing was, I thought, he said, Jim saw me and he said, the Jazz Talk tent is full. And I thought, yeah, because get out of the rain. But it was full all weekend long.
It was.
What a true testament to the
People were
fact.
standing.
Yeah. So we're actually going to be in a bigger tent this year.
Oh, good.
Only slightly, though.
Yeah.
Only slightly
But a bigger tent.
So we maintain the feeling of intimacy, and
Right.
and here's some wonderful selective musical performances. Last year, we were honored with David Fathead Newman, who played with a wonderful Detroit rhythm section of Charles Bowles and John Dana and George Davidson. But what was very cool was that Kirk Lightsey was in town, and we had just got through doing a Meet the Artist, a one-on-one interview session with Kirk, and he had to rush off to catch a plane back to Paris, but he saw Fathead Newman come in, so he came over and sat at the piano and sat in for a very long number.
It was very cool.
And it was really special, and the place was absolutely packed to hear something like that. So it shows that the audience for jazz is satisfied by the musical performances, but as you said, Terri, they're smart folks. I mean, jazz people tend to be smart. And they appreciate the more the educational aspect of the thing. Learning about Fathead Newman, or hearing something special. Hearing a presentation on Detroit jazz history, or on different aspects of music that musics that came out of Detroit. It was really special, and it's great that the festival recognizes that this does exist.
Oh my God, yeah.
There is an audience for this type of thing. That not only the music, but the stories of the musicians behind the music are also very worthwhile. The other cool thing is we're right on the river, of course. So you get that wonderful vibe of being down there and feeling all the breezes blow in from the Detroit River and seeing Canada across the river.
It's a wonderful, I think.
Yeah.
I love the urban landscape of this festival. And, I've been to festivals all over the world. This is not second to any of them. And the fact that it's free makes it better than most of them. But I will say, Monterey is a wonderful experience. Umbria is a wonderful experience. But the Detroit Jazz Festival kicks some serious butt.
It's like a big, giant family reunion.
It really is.
That's what it is.
Yeah. It is. It's very, very hip. And I just love the fact that you're in the city, and the closing down of Woodward and people streaming up and down, and it's really exciting and great.
We should also mention in the Jazz Talk tent this year, we're going to have we'll have a number of jazz researchers and writers in the Jazz Talk tent, one of whom is Ira Gittler.
Oh, wow.
who's who basically is a walking history of bebop. His wonderful books From Swing to Bop and Jazz Masters of the 40s. When I was a younger man, those were the Jazz Masters of the 40s was my Bible. I still have memorized huge passages of that book because there was so much good information in it. And he's a wonderful man, and he'll be involved in several of the panels, as will Bob Porter, who has attained nearly legendary status as the host of Portraits in Blue on WBGO. He's a veteran record producer for Prestige. He was involved in reissuing many of the classic bebop sessions on Savoy Records out of Newark. Bob is going to be on board as well for this.
That's really exciting.
It really is. We've got people with great expertise on the music who will be around. They'll be hanging out, listening to the music and
what
talking.
I love about this, too, is that it serves two purposes. It's not just the fact that, you're bringing in these experts and they are enlightening audiences and all that. But the other thing is that they get to see Detroit in the most positive light. They come away from that just feeling wonderful about it. Ira Gitler wants to be back.
Yes, he does.
That's all there is to it. Those guys had a really great time last year. So bringing in national jazz writers makes a whole lot of sense. It helps us. Bill Milkowski wrote a glowing, article about his experience in Detroit last year after the festival. He just had a wonderful time. I'll say one more thing. We're talking about partnerships and how we need to build on those kinds of things. One of the initiatives that we have already started is with Wayne State University. They're in our backyard. There's 700 kids in that music program, and it's time for us to do something in a more meaningful way. And so Chris Collins is conducting a jazz camp, a summer jazz camp that we are partnering with. So the last week of July, there will be this camp, and we are going to bring Conrad Herwig in to teach. Conrad's also on our festival, the Latin side of Miles Train in Wayne. So, and Sean Jones will be teaching in that camp as well.
And Mack Avenue is, of course, sort of stepped up to the bar and bought everybody a round of drinks, as far as the festival is concerned. And their generosity is really a beautiful thing, especially in this day and age, where support for the arts is faltering in so many different areas. And their contribution is the Jazz Festival safe, do you think?
Well, it's safe in that we have a little safety net until we can really turn things around. Gretchen Valade established an endowment, and this endowment is a $10 million endowment, and it spins off about $500,000 in operating money, seed money, which is what we get to use to start. We've got to raise and earn about another $1 million. I mean, this is a big festival. I think the scary part is that the festival has gotten to be very big, and there's an expectation for it to be big, but it is free.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we're also not in a very wonderful economic climate. So Gretchen's generosity and this endowment is going to keep us safe, but it's going to be on us to really work to get through these tough economic times and to make sure that we live to fight another day. We can't go through the endowment. That would be disastrous. But I would like to also take a minute to say something about Gretchen, because she is hugely important to this community. I don't know that people realize how important she really is. But, she is to jazz what Roger Penske is to racing. People look at Roger Penske and they say, look what he's done for Detroit. Gretchen stepping up to the plate in this beautiful, seriously, this is a very unique thing in the world of jazz, too, that there has been this kind of philanthropist that has said, I want this festival to remain here in Detroit. I want it to be on Labor Day weekend. It means all that because it is a tradition and because jazz is so important here. So she's really stepped up to the plate, and it is our hope that other people are going to be able to do the same and to contribute to the endowment.
Well, Terri, on behalf of everybody here at Detroit JazzStage, we'd like to thank you for dropping by our table this evening and sharing some of your thoughts about the Jazz Festival and jazz in general. And we look forward to seeing you over Labor Day at the Detroit International Jazz Festival.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
For more information about the Detroit International Jazz Fest, you can visit DetroitJazzFest.com.
Hello, Detroit JazzStage listeners. JazzStage Productions is expanding its efforts to present great jazz to the newly created Detroit JazzStage Jazz Spotlight Channel. Each week, the Jazz Spotlight Channel will present the finest jazz talent from around the world. You can find information about the Jazz Spotlight Channel and download episodes at jazzspotlight.com. That's JazzSpotlight.com.
Hi, I'm Rodney Reeves from JazzStage Productions. If you enjoy listening to Detroit JazzStage, we encourage you to leave your comments on iTunes. Doing so will help promote our show and keep us bringing quality shows to your iPod.
Detroit JazzStage is produced at Longview Sound in Metro Detroit for JazzStage Productions. Dean Sahutsky, executive producer. Mark Byerly is our sound engineer. I'm Jim Gallert.
And I'm Rodney Reeves.